Are carbs the enemy or not? How do you lift weights to get toned rather than bulky? How do you eat healthy and exercise while raising 4 teenagers? And how do you say no and set healthy boundaries if you're a people pleaser? Y'all, this episode with Tara Garrison is absolute fire and you don't want to miss it. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify, make sure you hit the follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the newest episodes to get you looking and feeling your best. Today, I am really excited to be joined by Tara Garrison. She's the founder of Higher, which is a health and life coaching company that offers training, nutrition, mindset, and biohacking coaching. She's also helped many celebrities, professional athletes, and top executives to optimize their health. She's also the author of Short-Term Keto, which she's actually not anti-carb, so make sure you listen to the episode. And she's host of the Inside Out Health podcast. She's creator of Higher Retreats and producer of the Coach Tara app. She's also a mom of 4, which will come into plenty of the conversation today. She's an avid weightlifter, and she's also a Boston marathoner. I know for me, I had 2 favorite parts of the episode. Number 1, when she talks about how she has raised 4 healthy kids, both from the standpoint of how she's gotten them to be healthy and how she's been able to prioritize herself. Her quote about the greatest power she has as a parent is absolutely amazing, and you don't want to miss this because it will completely change your mindset. And then the second favorite part was how she goes about setting boundaries as a people pleaser and using what she's called the people pleaser pause. But for now, it's time to get closer and closer to your best you with Tara Garrison. All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Best You podcast. Today, I am really excited to be joined by Tara Garrison. And Tara, there's going to be a few different topics that I want to discuss today. I kind of want to talk about, some of it's going to be maybe debunking, but I want to talk about carbohydrates, what maybe are bad about them, what's good about them, how to use them, how not to use them. I want to talk about bulking versus toning, if there is such a thing. And then I want to talk about how navigating health as a parent with multiple kids. And then I also want to talk about setting some boundaries. So we're going to go through a few different things as we go throughout today, but I want to talk about carbs. And I think a lot of people who are healthy follow a lot of other people who make carbs seem like they're the worst thing that there could possibly be in the entire world. And I think that most people know that, like, the processed carbohydrates are definitely the ones that are mostly the bad things that you should stay away from, that has tons of ingredients and packaged foods and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people believe the notion that, like, you should never eat rice, you should never eat potatoes, you should never eat these kinds of carbs and stuff like that. So I want you to discuss carbohydrates from the standpoint of how we should think about it if we're metabolically healthy versus if we're maybe not metabolically healthy and we're maybe insulin resistant. So I'm going to kind of let you run with that conversation here for a little bit.
Cool. I can already tell we're aligned just by the way you're phrasing the question, because I would have said it the exact same way as a podcast host. Okay, so this is one of my favorite topics. I came from getting fit through eating lots of healthy carbs, getting down to 11% body fat, shredded, muscular, right? And then I entered the keto world, tried out keto, did strict ketogenic diet for a year. At the end of that journey, I started to see so much dogma in the keto world. Not saying what you just said. I was seeing, nope, quinoa, rice, fruit, chocolate cake, cookies, they're all the same. And I'm like, what did you unfollow? I was just starting to get real turned off by my own community. And I'll put it this way. What has happened as somebody who's, and now I came off keto, I wrote a book about it called Short-Term Keto and made a case for carbs. And I've kind of become this carb champion from the keto world and this weird, and this is where I've come to it. And let me frame this one last thing. I also do gut microbiome testing. I do a hair mineral analysis, blood work. So I go into the deeper levels of health, and I'm seeing in real time with clients, like, how carbs can impact people. I do the deeper holistic health coaching, right? So it's not my whole mindset around health is not body composition, which is really what you're getting a lot on social media. We're acting like the only thing that matters about health is body composition. And this blank slate, this is how it works. Carbs good, carbs bad. This black white thinking is, we have to evolve out of this. That is not how it is. It's really good for business to just have a one way, one size fits all. And it's completely incorrect. And any professional that's worth their salt either knows better or should know better. Just saying. Okay. So carbs, what has happened here is we have a lot of people with autoimmune triggers. We have a lot of people with gut dysbiosis because of the world that we live in. It's hyper stress. It's hyper palatable processed foods. It's, environmental, like this. We don't live in a natural world. Okay. So we have a lot of people getting triggers for all these autoimmune issues, gut issues, which can create mental health issues, blah, 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 blah. They cut carbohydrates out of their diet because for them particularly, they have some sort of issue where their gut isn't metabolizing them well, or they have some sort of sensitivity to them. And then they become these poster children of, wow, look what happened to my health and my body comp and everything when I got rid of carbs. Then we have all these metabolically sick people who really, when they wipe out carbs, they also wipe out all these processed foods and all this stuff. And then now we have this army of people saying carbs are bad. Okay. So in the middle of this world that I was living in, the carbs are bad world, I started getting an intuitive feeling that I needed to bring healthy carbs back in. I did. So on keto, I went from 11% body fat. So if you want to get on body comp talk, I went from 11 to 18% body fat. I kind of wanted to be more like 15, 16. I felt a little better around there, a little more like myself, more athletic, more free. Couldn't do it on keto. As soon as I brought healthy carbs back in, for me personally, my athletic performance went up. My body comp, I dropped down to 12.9% body fat again, without even tracking food, really trying. Okay. So that allowed me to meet people where they're at in this whole body comp thing. And, now people will listen because I'm talking about body comp. Right. But so anyway, I ended up writing the book, and here's my case for carbs. Okay. If you are a metabolically healthy person, first of all, your gut microbiome, I'm sorry, but do not believe all these people who are telling you, like, they're coming from the sick perspective. If you have a messed up gut microbiome that does not have the proper bacteria to break down fibers, yeah, eliminating them for a little bit is going to make you feel way better. It's going to make your autoimmune stuff go away. It's going to make your, mental clarity come up, your body, all that. Okay. But if you have a healthy gut microbiome, or even a decently healthy gut microbiome, your gut microbiome needs those fibers. And most of the people I'm testing on their gut, we looked how they're breaking down proteins, fats, carbs. They are doing much better on breaking down carbohydrates than they are protein, actually, is an issue I'm starting to see. Okay. A lot. So, carbs, your gut microbiome needs them. When your gut microbiome has what it needs, your metabolism works better, your mental health works better. So if you're not in a place where you can eat carbs and feel okay with your gut, you need to fix your gut. Right? There may be some few cases where people have rare issues, but for the most part, if you heal your leaky gut, you heal your dysbiosis, you will be able to eat these things again and thrive. Now, the last thing I'm going to hit on is, well, we'll go back to body comp. Okay. We'll go to this one because everybody wants to know about this. Okay. So when you are decently metabolically healthy, you don't have type 2 diabetes. We're not talking about any disease states. Okay. You're just kind of overweight, or you just kind of want to lean out, all that. When you are active in building muscle, you are going after muscle building, which I cannot recommend enough this day and age. You build these bigger, what I call carb sponges, carb absorbers. Okay. And so when you go, like, I'm going to go to the gym after this, I'm going to get my lift on. I'm going to walk. That's all I do is lift and walk. Okay. A little bit of HIIT, one day of interval training a week. When you go do that, first of all, you're going to dump out a lot of that glycogen, stored carbs. You're going to build bigger muscles, which are what hold excess carbohydrates in our body. Okay. So if you don't know, when you eat carbs, the extra that your body doesn't need in that exact moment for brain power, immediate energy, they get stored in your liver and in your muscles. So the more muscle you have, literally bigger muscles, the bigger carb sponges you have. And so you will store that in your muscles and your liver first, but in your muscles to be used throughout the day, be used for tomorrow's workout. Okay. And so you get the benefit of You're making all these short chain fatty acids in your gut. You're getting the fibers you need to keep that diversity of your gut. You're getting there's serotonin boost from it. There's mental health boost from it, and you're also not having that go towards body fat. You're getting a better recovery from your workouts because the insulin will help drive the protein into your muscles, right? So if you're not insulin resistant, you're not metabolically unhealthy, you got to keep eating carbs and a wide variety of carbohydrates. I would recommend also. I eat rice, I eat potatoes, I eat fruit, I eat honey, I eat all of these things. And I'm like, I mean, you can kind of, I don't know, are people watching video? Is this a
Yeah,
video
there's the
podcast? Yeah. So if you're watching on video, I mean, I'm lean enough that if I just hold up my arm, you can see my biceps definition. I don't track any of my food, I don't do any of that. So this whole carbs are going to make you fat is completely incorrect and actually can lead to higher health outcomes as long as your body is in a position to be able to handle them. And if not, you need to do the work to get there.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I love the way that you break that down and debunk what I think a lot of people think is, like we've talked about, are unhealthy, which is not. I think a lot of people, I kind of talk about when it comes to nutritional habits, there's almost like levels. Like there's foundational habits that we need to form, and then there's kind of next level habits depending on getting to next levels of body composition or just next levels of health, etc. When you're looking for the next level, like maybe baseline is making sure you're eating real foods and somewhat appropriate quantities. When we talk about carbohydrates to the next level, how important do you find is carbohydrate timing around your activity levels and around lifting before and or after?
All right. So this is going to be difficult to manage in a quick response. There's a lot of factors I'm looking at in that. One of the things is I do a test on my clients that helps me gauge their dominant and more deficient neurotransmitters through personality. Okay. So if you're a highly competitive person, I can tell you right now, I would guess you're probably a more dopamine sensitive, we'll call it dopamine dominant, but dopamine sensitive person because you have a podcast. You're willing to go for it in life. That's generally associated with a little bit more dopamine. If you like strength, neurological type workouts, you like to go heavy, you like to, accelerate these big heavy weights. That's generally more dopamine dominant, which really means you're sensitive to dopamine people. Then we have the people who are more like muscular connected, more adrenaline dominant, right? And so anyway, I won't go all through that, but the people who are dopamine dominant, let me just put it this way. If you're a competitive person, when your heart of heart, you might be a nice person or you might not be, but if you know in your heart of hearts, you get in that game on competitive mode, you are most likely a dopamine sensitive person. Okay. And those people, those clients specifically are ones that I will almost always have some carbs pre, intra, or post workout. They do better with carbs before their workout. And if you don't know any of this, I'll just tell you this, just eat. If you feel better performing with some carbs in your system, have a little carbs in your system. I don't. I'm an adrenaline dominant person. So when I go perform, I perform best with that little bit of adrenaline boost that I'm going to get from being in a fasted state. So you can just honestly honor yourself. You can honor yourself. And in terms of nutrient timing, all of that, pretty much the latest research has really debunked like protein timing and all this stuff. I still think it's smart to have some food after I work out. I've just emptied my muscles of all this glycogen and I'm hungry because I was fasted. So I still think it's smart to have a nice healthy meal. And I'm going to be mostly focused on protein and carbs in that meal because fat is not really, there's going to be some fat in it, but it's not really required for muscle recovery. Right. So I'm thinking, okay, it's smarter time to have those. I'm not shoveling rice and chicken in my mouth as I come out of the gym. It's just as soon as I get hungry, because I think it is important to let your body come out of fight or flight mode before you start eating. Right. So I just wait to get hungry and then I eat that. In terms of carbs at night, that kind of time, I do, like if I have a client with HPA axis dysfunction, which is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, which is really should be called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal thyroid gonad gut axis. So it's two parts of your brain that affect all these systems of your body. When you've had hyper stress, maybe over exercising, big life trauma, maybe some sort Lyme disease or some sort of big inflammatory trigger, and it's been too much, that system can really break. It can be fixed, but it can really break. And people start getting like hypothyroidism, adrenal issues, gut issues, their sex hormones get run off. Those are people that I recommend having breakfast and having some pretty consistent, like healthy carbs, but fat and protein paired with it, like a healthy blood sugar response throughout the day. And then actually making sure they have some starchy carbohydrates at dinner when their cortisol is the lowest. So it really depends on the person, but for the most part, breakfast, I don't eat breakfast like I said, but I'm just going off of how I feel. I know I just feel way better when I perform fasted, and I just like that flow. But for the most part, the research is showing breakfast is like definitely the way to go, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to do some sort of intermittent fasting, stop eating a little bit earlier, right? And if you're dependent on carbs to go to sleep, then you might have to, slowly whittle your way there instead of just drastically cutting that. But
yeah, well, I don't know how. Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I don't know how deep of a rabbit hole this is going to bring us into, but I am interested. I've never heard the importance of knowing your tendency neurotransmitter wise when it comes to your carbohydrate intake. So why does your neurotransmitter tendency, whether you're dopamine sensitive, you're adrenaline sensitive or whatever, why does that impact how you should intake your carbohydrates?
yeah. Okay. So I'll tell you, and first I'll tell you if anybody's interested in this. This is from a system called neurotyping from Christian Thibodeau. He's a very well-known strength coach in Canada. His parents were both psychologists. He's really into this kind of stuff. He was kind of a big mentored by Charles Poliquin, if anyone knows who that is, if you're in the strength coaching industry, which is pretty cool. So if you go to my website, taragarrison.com, and you go on my discounts and partners page, there's a link for this because I have my clients take it, right? So it's called neurotyping. It's like $20-$30, something like that. And then he has info for you. To answer your question specifically, dopamine, when we start ramping up activity and getting all active in the gym, dopamine will eventually convert into adrenaline. So for the dopamine dominant person, a person who's kind of ruled by dopamine, they don't really want that to happen, because then they come out of this neurologically connected place and get a little bit more in this frenetic energy, right? So in order to keep that strength, carbs will blunt that conversion, right? They will, especially before, you need it before. It's not going to do that after so much. So that's why, you see a lot of like CrossFitters, there's like dopamine dominant mania. I want to do box heavy deadlifts to, pull-ups to like strength. That you always see them cruising in with like a banana or something, right? Because they know that about themselves. And then for me, as an adrenaline dominant person, this is like I'm a type 2A in this whole system. And so the two, that's a more adrenaline dominant profile. I actually feel the most myself in that state. Of course, I have to watch over this. I bring myself down. I don't have caffeine after noon. I have extra salt and water to make up for adrenaline, but I perform better in that state, right? And I am more muscle. I'm a more muscle connected to my muscles, hypertrophy type person. I'm not that strong. I deadlift like 155, 175, and I've been lifting for like 10 years. I'm not like some 300-pound deadlift chick. But those ones, the ones, 1A, 1B, they will be the dopamine people. And they just know this usually. They're always like, I feel way better if I have like a little something to eat before I work out. Is that bad? I'm like, no, it's not bad. Just do what works for you. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Gotcha. That's interesting. No, I've never heard that before. That's fascinating. I'll have to go look into the neurotyping by Christian Thibodeau. I appreciate you sharing that. I want to kind of transition into the fitness lifting side of things, because it's so funny, even though I feel like we are past the point where people should understand maybe how there's not necessarily a difference between lifting for getting bulky and there's not a difference between muscle and toned muscle and lean. It's just muscle. When somebody comes up to you and asks you, I want to lift weights, I know I need to be strength training, but I don't want to get bulky, I want to be toned. Like, how do you frame up that conversation for them?
So, and let me just also say, I get this from men too. The male equivalent of, I just want to be toned, not muscular, is I want to look like an athlete, not a bodybuilder. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm getting, it's the same thing. They're saying the same thing, And what I tell them is, I want you to try as hard as you physically can, without obviously steroids and things, but I want you to try as hard as you physically can to look like the bodybuilder or the bulky chick. and the muscle woman, and then you will get to where you want to be. So try as hard as you physically can to look like that. And then you will look like what you're aiming for. People massively underestimate how difficult it is to build muscle, right? And so I just say, try as hard as you can. Try as hard as you can. You'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I think that's the best way to frame it up for sure. Like try, see if go for it. Go for it.
I would say you can always stop if you think you're getting too much. You can always tone it down a little, but yeah.
But, and just to remind everybody, like there's not necessarily a particular number of reps and particular amount of weight that's going to get you bulky versus tone. That's just not how it works. And so making sure that you understand that as well. I'm really interested. We have a lot of people who listen to the podcast who are parents of young kids, usually anywhere from newborns up until mid teenagers. And their biggest obstacle is time. Their biggest obstacle is a lot of them used to be in good routines, good fitness routines, good health routines, but because they're caught up in their career, they're caught up in their kids' lives, they have struggled to prioritize health and fitness. Talk to us about how you're a mom of 4 kids, how you have been able to prioritize yourself, both from like a mindset perspective and like a practical scheduling perspective over the years.
I love this question. Okay. So first of all, from the mindset perspective, the mom guilt and the dad guilt is real, guys. Okay. And so we have to work with this in ourselves. I used to be like apologizing to my kids and like making them perfect little snack plates and getting them all set up with everything. I'm like, I'll be right back. I'm going to be super fast. And now I'm like, I mean, my kids are older. My youngest is 11 and my daughter's graduating this weekend, but I'm like, I'm completely unapologetic about it because of this. I'll tell you why. And I also usually give them chores and things. But because I recognize that the greatest power I have as a parent is in modeling. What I used to be in the framework of me being a good parent means that I am just with them 24/7, completely available to them. And that is important to be with them, of course. But the greatest power I have as a parent is what I show them, not what I tell them. And now as an older mom, I am definitely recognizing the truth of that. For example, like my 2 middle teenage boys wanted to go to the gym with me the other night, and they can't wait to go again tonight. My daughter, she can drive, she has her own car, shows up at the gym now when she has days off of school because she's every other day before graduating. So they're seeing that. So just think, what would I want this life that I'm living now for my child? Would I want them to feel like they can't do anything? They have no time for themselves. They can't prioritize their health because they have to sacrifice everything. No, I would not want it. This sucks. So first of all, like recognizing that sucks. It's way too much self-sacrifice. And there are solutions. I know it's tough, especially the ones that are like just got divorced or, you're starting. It's there. I get it. But when you can find solutions for that. When I got fit, I was going to the gym at 8:00, like 8:30, 9:00 at night after I put my kids to bed. Is that terrible for your circadian rhythm? Absolutely. Was it the only time that I could make it work? Yes. Did I get super fit doing that? Yep. So, it wasn't super great for my other health markers like sleep and circadian rhythm, but I did what worked at that time. So really important during that crazy phase of life of young parenting. Don't let people get in your heads. You're going to hear people like me talking about circadian rhythm and how important it is and wake up early and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I've been up with a newborn all night. Just ignore people like me saying those videos don't apply to you. Okay. Just do what works for you and unapologetically prioritize yourself. Figure out solutions with the kids and childcare and swapping and all that, because when your cup is full, because you have had time for yourself, you will show up happier and a better person around them. You really will. That has been the biggest realization, is like, when my cup is full, I am cool with my kids. I'm not looking at them as these barriers to my personal freedom and happiness, which it's hard to admit, but sometimes it gets like that. It's like, I can't do anything. I'm just stuck here. You can figure out solutions. And when you have your cup full like that, you won't look at them like that anymore. You will look at them purely in a place of like, okay, I'm cool now. What can I do for you?
Mm. That that is so good. I think that's going to be one of the most powerful 4 or 5 minutes for a lot of people listening to this. I mean, that first sense of awareness of the greatest power I have as a parent is in modeling is like that just completely changed my viewpoint on things too, and will change how I communicate to. I'm not a parent yet. I will be at some point, hopefully. But will how I will communicate to my clients differently. And then like thinking about it, would I want the life I'm living for my child if I'm like too self-sacrificing and not doing anything for myself? And then, oh my gosh, I think also you will like your kids better if you're not thinking about them as barriers to your freedom and happiness. Like that is such a big thing as well. That's absolutely key. I wanted same topic around around kids. I also have clients, and I'm sure you've worked with plenty of people as well who feel like they need to make 2 or 3 different kinds of dinners because they want to eat something that's healthy, but this kid doesn't eat something, this kid doesn't eat something, or they won't eat something healthy and they're complaining because they want pizza or whatnot. How have you managed practically cooking for numerous people, trying to make everybody, I guess maybe you're not always trying to make everybody happy, but trying to make everybody happy, satisfied, and healthy at the same time?
This pattern of making everybody different things that they like, if that is a pattern that you're in, this is happening all over your life. I bet you are just completely run ragged, exhausted. It's a people pleasing pattern. It's a deep fear of if I don't do what they want or what they like, then they won't like me. Or if I don't do what they want or they like, then they will be unhappy and it's my fault that they're unhappy. This is a deeply entrenched people pleasing pattern that honestly, like going on a deep dive with codependency and people pleasing needs to be looked at in these scenarios. For me, it's essentially this. Like, I know certain things that my kids like and absolutely detest. Okay. So I'm not going to like really push the envelope on things that I just know that they don't like, right? I've made it a couple times before and nobody liked it. Okay, cool. And honestly, the reason is probably because it wasn't very good. I didn't make it well. It didn't taste good. The right way I comboed stuff wasn't good. If you make healthy food taste good, they will eat it. So that's been a challenge for me, is like, for the most part, right? Is like, how can I make this taste better? So for me, cooking vegetables in butter and bacon and lots of salt, they will eat pretty much any vegetable cooked like that, roasted like that, air fryer or in the oven. So there's that aspect. And then let's say you're, reducing your carbohydrate intake because you have prediabetes or, type 2, and you're like, you need to do that. Okay. Well, then, like, let's say I'm making burritos. Okay. And honestly, like, I've switched over to a lot of healthier options for my kids, like the almond flour tortillas. They love those. They are kind of expensive. So I know not everyone can do that. Right. But if you can, there's healthier upgrades. But let's say you're not even going to have those. Let's do just a burrito bowl. So you learn these ways. So it's like if you just are making basically a protein, a meat, and then you're like, there's a side of veggies or a side of salad and a side of rice or potato, you can just not have one of the things if it doesn't fit your needs, but you can still eat the same dinner. I never make different dinners for my kids. And my question is, if you're trying to be healthy, and you feel that you need to make your kids something else that isn't healthy, well, I'm just inviting you to take a look at that. I'm just being real. Like, what is that? There's going to have to be a shift here, and it has to be gradual. My kids eat very standard American diet at their dad's house. Okay. Straight up. Chips, soda, frozen foods, ramen noodles, like all of that stuff. And so I get like, and I have no control, or I'm not judging. I like, do I wish it was different a little bit for their little bodies with everything I know? Yes, but let go of that. So I understand like kids coming with like, they want all these type of things, but if you can learn to find replacements of things that are healthier upgrades, they do eventually get used to it. They will eat it and find ways to make it taste better.
Mhm.
And I just have gotten to a point now where I have practiced a lot of this myself. The grill is a great tool. Who doesn't love like hamburgers and hot dogs, like get the higher quality stuff, you know? So
Yeah.
I haven't done that in years. It's not necessary. And it also creates a huge divide of like, um, mom's doing the healthy thing or dad's doing the healthy thing, so they have to suffer, right? Like it kind of creates that ideology.
Yeah.
So invite your family to get on board and just practice coming up with ideas that everyone can eat, that everyone generally likes. It's going to take some new shifting.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like that. For a lot of people, it's going to take both the mindset side of things, the practical side of things, prioritizing the time to like just think about how you can all find something that you enjoy and is healthy. But I love how you pointed out how if you're trying to be healthy and you're making something for yourself and then making something unhealthy for your kids, like look at that. Like, what is that? That's not the modeling that you want to be modeling, like you mentioned earlier. I've been absolutely loving this. The last thing I want to touch on is the boundary standpoint. I saw one of your posts not that long ago about this and thought it was so great. And I thought the way that you communicated about it was profound. And so part of what you said in that post was oftentimes if you're not good at saying no, or you're a people pleaser, you have people pleasing type tendencies, you said that you oftentimes lack communication skills or style when it comes to communicating honestly when it's uncomfortable. And so talk to us about if somebody is a people pleaser and they do lack that communication ability or communication style, how can you work on practicing getting reps in on improving that?
Yeah. And to frame this up real fast, I was the
sure.
worst people pleaser ever. I mean, it destroyed my life. I lost everything. Like it was really, really bad. And so I had to go on a massive healing journey with this one. Lots of coaches, lots of mentors, lots of courses, lots of books, like lots of practice. And yes, what I'm saying is like, let's take somebody who is like a leader, somebody you can think of like, wow, that person's like an incredible leader. How does that person show up when they have to say no to somebody? Oh, hey, excuse me, Jim, like we're really hoping you could invest in this project we're working on. Like that guy, Jim, has skills on saying no. Hey man, that is so awesome you're doing that. Like, why don't you go ahead and submit this, and we'll review it and let you know. Like, it's just this very skilled way of being. A people pleaser who basically feels like I'm not okay unless you're okay. Or if I say no and you're sad, that's somehow my responsibility, and all that stuff's been happening forever. And you realizing you're coming out of this, literally practice out loud. Literally practice out loud. So if somebody texts you and says, hey, can you help us with this project? Before you text them back, practice out loud how you want to respond. Don't over explain yourself. They don't need to know about your mom's ankle and you have to go make her dinner on Thursday night and blah, blah. Like they don't need to know any of that, right? People pleasers always, you get the longest text ever, right? So practice saying like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the invite. I so wish I could. I can't on Thursday. Let me know next time, right? Something simple like that. And then practice saying it out loud so you get the inflection in your voice. Oh man, that sounds super fun. Thank you so much. I so wish I could. I can't. Will you please let me know next, if that's true for you, that you want to know next time. Don't say that if it's not true for you, because now you get yourself in one of those conundrums, right? Because you lied, because people pleasers lie to help other people feel better and like them more, right? So be honest, but practice with small things. Practice with the small things so much. Practice getting identified with what you want and don't want. I'll give you a definition of boundaries that I have memorized. On my podcast, I had Terry Cole. She is like an international expert on this. And I asked her right out of the gate, can you give me a definition of boundaries? And she said, boundaries are knowing what your preferences, desires, limits, and deal breakers are, and being able to communicate them clearly and concisely with anyone. I use that all the time in my coaching. That's why I got to memorize. Okay. Yeah. So I'll literally take people through the process. I'm like, what are your preferences and desires here? What are your limits and deal breakers here? Okay. So your job this week is to communicate that with your husband, that this is what you prefer. This is what you desire, Yeah,
no, that's great. That's great. Last question to finish off on the people pleasing thing. When you're in the moment, I'm lucky that I never, I think some areas maybe I'm people pleaser, but I don't have the tendency nearly as much. But I have a lot of people in my life that do, or a lot of clients that do, and struggle with this. So I want to make sure I pick your brain on it. When you're in the moment and somebody asks you to do something, or somebody wants you to do something, or invites you to go to something, and you kind of feel the like, I gotta say yes feeling. How do you create enough gap in between that like question or the stimulus and response to be able to artfully navigate how you respond to them, like when you're face to face with them?
It's called the people pleaser pause. This is something that I created for myself. And you're so spot on. I can tell you just recognize this pattern from a mile away, right? I recognize that I would just say yes instantly to everything without even thinking really. Hey, Tara, you want to go to coffee on Friday? Yes. Oh my gosh, that sounds so fun. And then I'd be like, later, I'm like, I'm not even going to be here. I'm going to be out of town. Like it was like that sometimes, or just say yes instantly and then have this feeling of like, I don't want to do that. Okay. So this people pleaser pause is when someone asks you to do something, you pause, and there's two questions that come in that pause. And it's the first question is, do I want to? So not should I, or I'm kind of telling myself I want to because that's what good people do. No. Like I want to finish the book that I'm like obsessed with right now, or I want to watch my favorite sports game, or I want like that kind of want to. Like I personally want to, regardless of anybody else, I want to do this. That's the first question. Second question is, do I have the bandwidth? Meaning, let's say it's Saturday. So it's like, somebody's like, can you come help me paint my house on Saturday? The first question is like, maybe I want to. Maybe I'm like, oh, that sounds fun to hang out with them and like whatever. Let's say it's a yes, I want to. But like, I have a really freaking busy week. I've got kids' sports games. I got something else going. Or maybe I have nothing on Saturday, but like I really just need a day to just have nothing on the docket. Okay. So do I have the bandwidth? It can also be financial bandwidth. Hey, can you come on this trip with us? Okay. Yes, the want to is definitely there. But do I really have the financial bandwidth for that right now? Is that a priority to me? Or am I just saying yes to please people? So those are my two. I use this in my coaching too all the time because people pleasing is rampant. I know you run into it a lot too. So pause. Do I want to? Do I have the bandwidth? And if it's no to either of those, or especially both, then the work is to actually say no. And, it's reps. The saying no thing is reps. Don't over-explain yourself. You can still be kind. Remember, you're finding your style. You don't have to be like, no.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You can have some style to it. You figure out ways to say no in a loving, cool way. So every time you do that is practice.
Yeah, no, I love it. And those two questions are huge and revealing. And I think, like you said, with the second question, the bandwidth, it's like there's different buckets of bandwidth. There's like, do you have the emotional and mental bandwidth? Do you have the financial bandwidth? Do you have like the practical time bandwidth to be able to do it? And then I know for me personally, I oftentimes, if people ask me to do something, like I almost never say yes right away. Even if like right off the top of my head, it's like, yes. Because I'm always just like, I'll look at my calendar and see if I can make it happen. It's like giving myself the ability to like step back and actually take 10 minutes to think about those questions rather than try to process it in 10 seconds.
Well, and it makes you a better friend or colleague or whatever, because you don't have to come back and be like, I don't want to, or you're showing up in this energy of, well, I already said yes and I don't even want to be here. And so your energy's off, right? So it does make you a better, partner or ally, whatever, in any sort of social situation because you do that. So kudos.
Yeah, well, this has been an absolute blast. We have navigated a lot of different territories here with carbs, from lifting to kids and boundaries. You guys I know you're going to want to go learn more about Tara and her work and everything like that. You can opt into her free trial at taragarrison.com/app. She has an awesome app that has training, nutrition, mindset, biohacking, and like you've just heard today, she navigates a lot of different areas of life and can help you with the mental, the emotional, the practical, the physical, and all these types of things. So make sure we'll have it link in the description, taragarrison.com/app. And also make sure you're following her on Instagram if you don't already, at Coach Tara Garrison. Is there any other place that people should go learn more about you?
You can just find everything on that Tara Garrison website, and just follow me on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook at Coach Tara Garrison, and you'll find all my everything. So thanks guys for joining, and thank you. What wonderful job navigating a quick episode like that. So it's a pleasure.
Well, yeah, well, it was fun. It was, would wish we could go longer, but this has been a blast, and I know everybody has enjoyed it as well. And hopefully you've taken down some notes. Hopefully you've taken things down, like the greatest power I have as a parent is in modeling. Hopefully you've written down the people pleaser pause. I know I'm going to go back and rewatch it and write down the definition of boundaries. And so I hope you guys have too. But Tara, that's all we got today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
That interview was absolute fire. Tara crushed it on all fronts. The nutrition side of things, specifically diving into carbs, exercise, raising healthy kids, and again, not just the healthy kids, but prioritizing herself along the way, and setting healthy boundaries. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you know you have to hit that follow button, because this episode was fire, and that's how all our episodes will continue to be. We'll continue to bring the best of the best so that you can look and feel your best. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe below, like this video, hit subscribe below. That's going to be the biggest way to support this channel so we can get this information in front of more people's eyes, because we're continuing to put out some of the most life-changing content out there to help you achieve your health and fitness goals. I know my three biggest takeaways from Tara are the following. Number one, carbs are not the enemy. Carbs can help to fuel you, relax you, and keep you looking and feeling your best. Number two, your greatest power as a parent is in modeling. I mean, wow. Talk about a mindset shift. Your greatest power as a parent is not making your kids super happy all the time. It's not being with them every moment of every day, but it's in modeling appropriate behavior. And then third and finally, setting healthy boundaries is a must. And practicing the people pleaser pause is such a great strategy for all of you people pleasers, me included, to utilize. If you can do these things, I promise you're going to start to change your mindset, and you're going to continue to get closer to the healthiest version of yourself, and ultimately get closer and closer to your best you.